We have a Carson coming up next, and Carson, his father owns Horizon Trust. It's a self-directed IRA company where a lot of y'all may have some retirement dollars in a 401k. Maybe you left the job, it's still sitting there, and you're like, I don't know what to do with all this money. How do I take it out without paying tax and penalties? What can I use that money for right now? So Carson is really into the whole qualified world and how you can move that money into a self-directed account and use it to go make more money. So after Carson, then we have our game show coming up, and we got a lot of more cool content after that. So Mr. Carson Hurley, and put your hands together for Carson, y'all.
Yeah, bring it up, guys, yeah!
Turn it on. There you go.
It's on?
Oh, yep, and then it's that one.
Cool. How many of you guys, at one point or another time in your life, did not have control over your money? Raise a hand. Right? And how many of you are here this weekend to have more control over your money? Right? Duh. That's why we're here. So first off, from wherever you guys have come from across the country, I honestly welcome you and I congratulate you guys for being here, because there's so many people out there who just talk. You know, they say they want to be good, they claim they're doing better, but they're not actually doing anything. And you guys took action to be here, and we're here together, which is pretty freaking cool. I've met a lot of you guys, and it's been amazing. So kudos to you guys for being here. And usually when I'm in a room like this, I'm thinking to myself, what am I going to get out of this? What am I going to get out of the next 30 minutes? And so I want to just start with that and tell you what I'm going to dive right into. First being, if this works, where do I click? This? Where do I point it? Oh, I am clicking it. There you go. I don't know how to use a remote. Protection. Because who doesn't want to protect their money better, right? Tax-free growth, because there's smarter money moves we can make that we should be making that we're not. Third being leverage, because we all have money leaking out every month. We all have resources and relationships we need to be leveraging better. And fourth being legacy, because you're here this weekend to learn, but what are you going to do from there? How are we going to pass this knowledge down to our friends, peers, kids, coworkers? Not just leaving money behind, but the actual knowledge we're gaining. And for you guys, I know a good amount of you in this room, but I don't know all of you. And not all of you know most of our team, but I'd like to just give you a little bit of insight of who I am. Not a lot of you know who I am. These are a bunch of photos of my wife, Anna, and I. We live in Southern California. We love to travel, love to surf, as you can tell. And we live a good life. But a few years ago, we went on a journey where we started to build what I like to call not just to be rich, but to build something that's generational, building generational wealth. And I can sum that whole experience up in two words: gratitude and choices. I'm so grateful that I get to feel confident and secure in my financial future at a young age when no one in their 20s can say that. And choices, because every day when we wake up, we get to choose what we do, and that's pretty freaking awesome too. And my story is simple. I'd say actually a lot of you can relate to it despite the age difference. I made a lot of mistakes being young, as we all do. But at 18, I did one thing right. I actually went and served a church mission where I lived abroad for a year. But when I came home, it was interesting. I had all these different outside influences pushing me in different directions. And in one hand, I held the traditional route. I was learning about math, economics, normal school. I was going through kind of being groomed to be an employee and be in that corporate America. And I saw my friends going down that venture. And then in this hand, I was around entrepreneurs and business owners. And I saw the freedom and control they had. And I had to make a decision of kind of which route I wanted to take. And that tension, pulling these two ideas apart, brought me to a point of decision where I dropped out of school and I pursued an education in investing and learning how to make money work for me, and that changed everything. And since then, our life has been fantastic, and we're only starting. And so today, what I want to talk about is you guys. How many of you want to have more money so that you can spend more time with your family, right? How many of you want to have more money to spend less time with your family? Yeah, there's always a few of you too, and that's fine. But we're here to talk about you guys, so whatever you guys want, right? So, two things I want to talk about today: control and financial education. We have hit a lot of basic concepts of mindset and very advanced stuff with numbers, but I kind of want to sum it all together today. I'm not rounding out the whole session, but I want to round out what we've learned thus far and hitting these two concepts. So first, let's talk with control. We all have different things in life we want to control. And for me, those three main things that I want to control are mind, and my money, and my time. But if I wanted to address something in my life, what would I want to address first? If I wanted to change something or grow, for me, it's my mind. If I don't have my mind right, I can do nothing else. And if you don't have your mind right, you can't ever control your money. And if you can't ever control your money, you can't ever control time, right? So how can I get my mind right and control my mind around money and time? So this little example here, I think a lot of you might have heard this before from Chris or our presentations, but I'll go through it quickly. We all make money. Business owners, W-2, 1099, whatever. We all bring in income from the value we create. When that income comes in, what do we do with it? You guys in here are special, but most people out there pay their taxes first. Comes out of their paycheck. They pay the federal and state taxes, and then they contribute to their 401ks. After that, they're going to pay for the houses and their cars, the two major purchases, and then whatever's left over goes to living, right? And I actually was thinking about this, and I was thinking, well, then when I go to the grocery store and I have $100 worth of groceries, I go and check out, and then it shoots up to 105, 107, 110 because of sales tax. And I'm like, well, now every dollar I spend goes to someone else too, right? And I actually asked ChatGPT this, and ChatGPT said there was 26 different types of taxes. I know it's very small, so I'll read some of them to you. But I'm sure there's way more than this. But ChatGPT said income tax, corporate income tax, Social Security tax, Medicare tax, value-added tax, property tax, estate tax, gift tax, capital gains tax, self-employment tax, sin tax, carbon pollution, toll. Guys, there's so many different types of taxes on every dollar you spend. So when this is happening, first we're paying the government, we're paying financial institutions, we're paying banks, and we're paying the government even more. And all that's left over after all this goes to our lifestyle and investing. So this is not control, obviously. You guys know that because you're here, which is awesome, but most people don't. And when I look at this, I think, well, how can I then control control my financial education so this doesn't happen? So, real quick, everyone turn to your neighbor, give him a big old high five and say, I want financial education. There you go. Yep. I love it. Let's get into it. So, you guys ever heard of a guy named John Bogle? Any of you know John Bogle? Some of you, yeah? So, before we get into him, I want to talk about compound interest. I want to do a little bit of an experiment with you guys today. I usually want to pull up the website on here and do calculators up here with you guys live, but didn't realize I would have a computer, so I had a screenshot of it. But it's a compound interest calculator. What I want to find out with you guys today is what is the earning power? What's the lifetime potential your money has to grow? And I want to start with a simple example of $1,000. So if you only had $1,000, no money you ever contributed after that, what is the lifetime potential your $1,000 has to grow throughout your life? And most people, they start making money around age 20. They retire-ish around age 65, and then if you believe actuarial tables and mortality rates, life expectancy is 85. So you have from 20 all the way to 85 for your money to compound. That's 65 years of growth. That makes sense? Those numbers work? So if we did that, 65 years, great. Now how much is that going to compound at? Well, the average S&P or mutual fund, whatever, does 8-9%, right? Some do better, some do worse. So I want to build some variance into that. So on the spreadsheet, I put in 8% with 2.5% variance. Some do 2% better, 2% worse. There's a mix of it all. So $1,000 goes in. No more contributions. You have 65 years, 8%, a little bit of variance, right? That's how much your money has to grow. So we calculate that. In 65 years, it says you'll have 148 grand. Cool, right? $1,000 to 148 at 8%. Awesome. Well, I want to find out in this experiment with you guys, how much of that 148 winds up in your pocket on your financial statement versus Wall Street's pocket and their financial statement. Craig and Chris kind of hit this yesterday talking about the fees and different things incorporated and how a compound works, but I want to take it to another level. So if we look at this chart, the red line shows your earning power at 8%. Your $1,000 will go to $148,000 over that lifetime potential. 10.5%, $650. So really quick, think about that. 2%, that's it, changes how much potential your money has to grow. Now, why are we not making 2% better, making an effort to make 2% better than the average guy? Just that would change everything. That's why financial education is so important to me. 2% can change your world. So what about 2.5% less? $1,000 only grows to 30 grand. So you have from 30,000 all the way to 650 for your money to compound. I mean, that's a huge gap, but that's the lifetime potential your money has to grow. So I'll get to John Bogle in a second. So what I'm about to show you, John explains, and John was actually the owner and founder of a little company called Vanguard. You guys heard of Vanguard? There's $11 trillion of 401ks in the country, and Vanguard has about $2 trillion of it. It's a pretty good sample size. And what I'm about to show you, John talks about the financial institutions. And when I show this to people, they cannot unlearn it. There's something that happens that usually people get genuinely angry when they see this. So I'm just warning you guys now, that's what we're about to see. This is an interview John did before he passed away. It's in 2006 or 8 or somewhere in that range. They asked him, well, I'll start here. He's the founder of Vanguard, one of the world's largest mutual fund organizations, and the author of The Battle for the Soul of Capitalism, okay, which addresses how the financial system undermined social ideals, damaged trust in the markets, and robbed investors of trillions. He said it, not me. He did not say you were tricked or hoodwinked or messed with. He said robbed. This money was stolen from your pocket. He then said, if you look on the right side, I'll pull it up. He called it not just robbery, but he called it tyranny. He used words like robbery and tyranny to describe the financial system. He again, founder of Vanguard, okay? So what does this robbery and this tyranny mean? You guys all know what a financial statement is? Super simple. You have income, you have expenses. Income minus expenses is your cash flow. Assets on the left, liabilities on the right. Assets minus liabilities, net worth, right? Super simple. Well, let's find out again in this experiment how much of that 148 winds up in your pocket and how much winds up in theirs. Your financial statement versus their financial statement. So they asked John, they said, well, hey, if I had $1,000, I put in 500, you get baited with the employee match, and they put in 500, you have 1,000, and you think your $1,000 goes here. You think you're getting rich, right? Well, that $1,000 is not there. That $1,000 is there, right? Because it's called what? Assets under management. It's not called Carson's money they manage, right? So first off, what's the lifetime potential of $1,000 at 8%? 148, right? So the $1,000 will grow to approximately 148 on their side. Well, let's come back to the article. They asked him later on, they said, so if I do your average, what percentage of my net growth is going to go to fees in a 401k plan? He says, well, it's awesome. It's awesome, right? Okay. Let me give you a little longer term example. The example I use in my book is an individual who's 20 years old. We did this math already, guys, right? He's 20 years old, accumulating for retirement. The person has about 45 years before retirement, and then if you believe the actuarial tables, another 20 years to go before death mercifully brings his or her life to a close. In the insurance business, we talk about graduation dates and graduating. This is a mercy killing, okay? That's 65 years of investing. If you invested $1,000 at the beginning of that time and earned 8%, that $1,000 will grow to 60 or 140 grand, right? Numbers math out to what we found. We just did the compound interest. He then said, so the financial system, mutual fund system in this case, will take about 2.5 percentage points out of that return. So you'll have a gross return of 8 and a net return of 5.5, and your $1,000 will grow to approximately 30 grand because of fees. Chris hit it earlier. 2.5% is the average fee, especially, he said it. 2.5% is taken off for fees. So your 1,000 will grow to approximately 30. We just did that math, right? So if your 1,000 is growing to approximately 140, theirs at 8%, and you're compounding at 5.5 because of the fees, you only get to 30. So what's 140 minus 30, right? He said $110,000 goes to the financial system and $30,000 to you, the investor. Think about that. Let's think about that. What words would you use to describe this system? Robbery and tyranny, just like he said, right? Duh. So 2 minutes ago, when I told you that this is going to bring up feelings of anger and words like robbery and tyranny would be used, do you see why? This is the true math behind what's happening. So what are we going to do? What are we going to do about this robbery and about this tyranny? Well, if you stay in the system, there's nothing you can do, so you got to find ways to get out of it. Lucky for you, you know what infinite banking is. You know what these policies are. Great usage. But what about your retirement accounts, right? A lot of you probably have old accounts or current ones, or you've stopped to fund policies, and all of it can make sense to do that. But there's certain things that come into play when you're trying to do that, and using retirement accounts, there's certain ways to do so. So if we do keep reading what he said, he says, think about that. That means the financial system put up 0% of the capital and took 0% of the risk and got almost 80% of the return. And you, the investor, in an investment lifetime, put up 100% of the capital, took 100% of the risk, and got only a little bit over 20% of that return. Guys, how can we control this, and how can we educate ourselves better? So, back to control and education. If you had $1,000 and you let someone else manage that and they make 8% minus the fees, you only grow 1,000 to 30 grand. But if you just chose to control it, you could invest in the exact same mutual funds as them. You could copy everything they did, but instead of them controlling it, taking fees, you control it, you're up to that 140. Now, educate yourself, learn how to make 2% better than the average guy, you got that 140 to 650. So control gets you to the first step, education gets you to the next. That all make sense? So a lot of people out there don't want to control their money or educate themselves because that's an excuse, or it can be an excuse for someone else to manage it, so if they screw it up, it's not their fault. But in this situation, you guys here want to have that 650, the compounding growth on 1,000. And I just showed an example of $1,000 bucks. You could have 10 grand a year, $100,000 a compound, same numbers. You could have 20 years less of time, but the same amount. The same idea comes across. So this comes to my next question. Could it be possible that there are more efficient environments to store wealth outside of commercial banks we're not aware of? Again, yes, you know insurance policies, but the qualified plans. So there's two different types of money. Qualified money and non-qualified money. A lot of you guys already know that you have certain types of retirement accounts, but those of you who don't, qualified money is anything you can't touch until you're 59 and a half. HSAs, TSPs, 401ks, 403bs, IRAs, SEPs, all those things, okay? No matter what kind you have. And then non-qualified's everything else. Your policies, real estate, your cash, CDs, all that kind of stuff. So you can't move money between this threshold very easily. So we need to find ways to control both atmospheres. The policies can only control the non-qualified space, not the qualified. So in my opinion, my two favorite tools to control my money in these two environments are the policy and a Roth IRA. And not just a Roth, but a self-directed Roth, one that you can control. You don't have to have your 401k or IRA with Fidelity or Charles Schwab. You can own it, manage it yourself, and do whatever you want it to do. That would be what a self-directed retirement account is. And you could roll over any type of retirement account into a self-directed. This is just personally my favorite because in a Roth, it grows tax-free. And what do you know about these two things? The government limits how much we can put into policies because of the MEC limits, and the government limits how much you put in IRAs. Well, if the government doesn't want you to do something, that's probably a good indicator that we should be doing it. So, first off, but you can invest in both places, right? You can take loans from policies, go and do whatever you want. You can invest through an IRA, great, right? Policies you can start on a baby, have till they pass away forever. IRAs you can't touch till you're 59 and a half for other purposes than investing. You can do purchases through policies or more investments and lending through IRAs. You can have both of these systems, private and control over them. Again, the Roth IRA is tax-free, and there are guarantees in a policy, which we've hit a lot yesterday. That felt like that was the word of the day, is guarantee, right? And these are the two companies you can get these things at. Obviously, you all know the money multiplier. Horizon Trust, like Hannah mentioned, is actually my family's company where we self-direct retirement accounts. You can roll any type of account over to Horizon. They're basically just a custodian like Charles Schwab, but you can control it. You can do whatever you want. And so I'm not up here to compare the two or say one's better than the other, because they're not. They're just so different. And I think a lot of times in the IBC world, we're all like, IBC, policy. But that's not always the case, I think. I think there are situations when a retirement account makes sense. Not always, but it can. And so that's what I want to get into today, because we all know these two different places and kind of how it works, but when should I have one? How much should I contribute to the other? And what's the difference? How can I do both? And so there's a few different things I look at. First, your age. I am 22. Will I ever do a 401k? No, never in my life. However, will I do a Roth? Probably. People who are in your 40s, you might have current retirement accounts you can't even get out of, you're going to have to keep. Maybe stop contributing to them makes sense. Maybe you have old ones you want to roll over or take out. If you're in your 60s, maybe you now can just live off of them. Maybe pay the tax right away, maybe roll it over a few years. You have options. And same with if you had no retirement accounts current, or you needed to set up a new one. That is totally dependent upon the situation. Maybe set up a new one, maybe don't, maybe get rid of all of them completely, maybe slowly roll over your retirement account and limit the taxes, but roll it over to a Roth or roll it over to a policy and take the tax hit. Maybe the 10% penalty to roll out of a retirement account doesn't make sense if you're 57. Take 2 more years, wait, and then do it. Slowly pull it out. So every situation based on your age and the current accounts you have will be really how you determine what to do. And then there's 7 different asset classes. There's debt, commodities, equities, cash, currency, real estate. Depends what you want to invest in. Like for me, if I was a huge Tesla or Apple stock guy, I'm going to hold Tesla for the next 80 years. That appreciation of a stock is not going to pay me dividends. It's not going to pay me back cash flow. I'm just holding it. So why would I put that in a policy, in my opinion? I mean, maybe it would make sense. Maybe you can pay it back with windfalls, sure. But if I could have a Roth IRA compound tax-free and I'm not ever going to touch it anyways, why would I not do it there? Right? So it depends what you want to invest in. Or, even trickier, what if you funded your Roth IRA every year from your policy because you knew you had windfalls coming in that you could pay the loans back with, have the IRAs grow tax-free in the investments and get best of both worlds? What if you wanted to invest in your business versus somebody else's? You can't use your own Roth IRA to lend to your personal LLC. You can't do that. but you could lend to somebody else's LLC. But in a policy, you could lend to your business, right? So that would play a factor of how you want to use the funds, where you want to put them to. And I have a heart here for what I call sweetheart deals. If you're like, hey, once in a while, a deal comes across your desk that you know is going to 10 or 15x. Like, you know this real estate deal is going to crush it. Or this new startup company you can invest in is going to go crazy. Those sweetheart deals that come across very infrequently, I tend to put those in a Roth. Because if I'm going to 10x in a year, I don't want to pay taxes. I'm running that through my Roth every single time. If I take a loan from my policy to finance that deal and it 10x's, I owe tax on it. I lose half the gain. Those deals, I'm running through my IRA every time. And lastly, banking versus investing. If you have a certain amount of cash value in your policy and you want to buy a car and you also want to do an investment and you don't have enough to do it, I personally would do the financing through the policy and the investing from an IRA if you could do both. So I share all these different examples with you because I'm not here to say one's better than the other again, or hey, here's an exact perspective of the best way to do it, because I don't know. It's so dependent upon you and where you should be moving funds around per these different vehicles and what you want to invest in. So I'm just giving you all types of examples that you can take and try and implement in your own life. If you want to talk about it, we can later too for your personal situation. But that's really what this is about. So that being said, if you didn't get anything from the last 30 minutes, I hope you get this. It's very, very simple. If you just learned how money worked, found ways to control it by running it through a policy or an IRA or any other vehicle you think makes sense for your situation, great. And then just that will set you up for success. So those are the only 3 things you have to do. Again, I'm not here to say one's better than the other, but figure out what makes sense for you. Find ways to control it so you can get yourself from the 1,000 or the 30K to the 150, and then get yourself from 150 to 650 by the investments you choose to make, by the education you're putting on yourself and your mind. So I went through all this pretty quickly because I think that's all very basic things you guys already know. You're all very smart. But I want to shed the light on different options you have. You have a million factors involved with how you decide what to do. And so today I want to just also, to end, remind you guys that there are so many opportunities around you to make money. Everywhere. So let's use the education we're learning this weekend to go find ways to start controlling our money. And then once it's controlled, now we have remember in the beginning, our control, we have our mind right. From this weekend, you're getting your mind right. Then we're going to get our money right by controlling it. And then as we control it, we're going to level it up with the education, and we're going to get our time back. So next time we see you guys next year, hopefully you're already past it. You have the control, you have the education, and you're excelling phenomenally. That's the goal, right? Then you have your time back, you can do more what you want, and that will even help you create more income and go take the opportunities you have around yourself to go and crush it and triple X your income. So all that being said, I'm not here to sell you anything again or put you on whatever. I just want to share with you guys things I've learned in my journey, and I want to gain value from you guys too. It's what we're all here for, is giving value to one another. And so the only thing I have here at the end is my QR code to my Instagram. That's it. I want to post videos with every single one of you and share the experiences we're learning and post it to our friends and families to leave a legacy. Follow me, I'll follow you guys, we'll share our stories, and let's take a selfie this weekend, tonight, and share with everybody what we're doing, what we're learning. Because when you see other people doing it with you, you see a friend post on a selfie with somebody else, it shows the community involved and shows it's not just you trying to sell something, but this will bring more and more people together. So, again, that's all I have to end with, but I appreciate you guys for being here, and I hope this was helpful.